Welcome to the ESG MENA podcast. Today I'm speaking with David Nicholson, Chief Climate Officer for Mercy Corps. Hi David, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. It's nice to be here.
Great, and good to have you talking to us from Sharm el Sheikh for COP27. Now first just tell us a bit about your role with Mercy Corps. What does the Chief Climate Officer do?
So Mercy Corps is a larger global humanitarian and development organization. We have a range of programs around the world that span from shorter-term humanitarian and emergency relief to longer-term development and resilience building programs. Well, my role at Mercy Corps is to try and make sure we're integrating climate risk across all of our activities and bringing the realities of climate change and the climate crisis central to our strategy. Historically, our sector has not necessarily been very good at considering climate change at all elements of what we do, and it's something we're really trying to work hard on now.
Okay, great. And with Mercy Corps, tell us more about the work Mercy Corps does, particularly in the Middle East. I've been reading a bit about the work you've been doing in Palestine and Jordan in particular. Can you tell us more about those two projects or the work in those two countries?
Yes, absolutely. Mercy Corps primarily works in places where we're recovering from crisis or where there's ongoing challenges that the populations are dealing with, and we really look to find the opportunities for longer term progress in amongst those crises. The Middle East has been Mercy Corps has been present in the Middle East for many years in a range of really interesting programs with a range of partners and governments and civil society and local businesses, and we really try and facilitate all of those local actors together in concerted efforts towards our outcomes, which might be food security outcomes, water security outcomes, economic opportunity, or peace and good governance. And all of those issues are relevant to various parts of the Middle East. Jordan and Lebanon are places where we've worked, both of which we've worked for a number of years. In Jordan, we've had a significant focus for over a decade now on the issue of water security. Jordan is one of the most water scarce countries in the world, and any economic development and progress against all of our goals in Jordan require sound management of this really limited resource. And this has only been getting worse with climate change. So we've had a range of programs working with the agriculture sector, looking at ways to bring in water efficient technologies into the agriculture sector, looking at ways to engage communities around better water management practices, at the household level. And then linking that to how to advance, productivity and economic output, within that limitation of water scarcity. We have a new project right now that's actually funded by the Australian government and the Swiss government, working in the south of Jordan, looking at ways to think a little bit more holistically around starting with water management and then linking it up to various private sector efforts for expanding and diversifying agricultural systems. And it's really interesting working with some of the groups. There's some fantastic women's cooperatives in the south of Jordan who have been trying to figure out how to do a lot of value addition to products being developed and how to start, looking at new and alternative agricultural products that might be able to bring in different sources of income that can all be developed within that limitation of the limited water resource. So fascinating work has been happening there. We've also been working quite broadly in civil society strengthening. I mean, Jordan has an incredible array of local organizations, national organizations that are working on all kinds of community development efforts. And Mercy Corps has been trying to figure out ways to strengthen those, build the capacity of those organizations so that they can do better work.
Okay, and then I guess that empowers them to build their own communities and to share their knowledge, and then it sort of snowballs from there.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And there's no shortage of impressive partners that we have across Jordan that have already been doing incredible work. And I think Mercy Corps has the opportunity, with the relationships we have with donors from across the world, to bring in some extra resources and work with those partners to strengthen their ability to do even better work.
Okay, fantastic. And with Palestine, what's the work's been going on in Palestine? I'm guessing that they've got some long-term infrastructure issues with everything that's been going on there. So how does it work for the people of Palestine?
Yeah, Palestine's a very challenging place for for anyone to work. And Mercy Corps has been working again with local partners there on a range of different issues. One of which being infrastructure. Water and energy services are in high demand and are quite unreliable. So we've been working. We invested with some local partners and funding from international donors on some localized desalination efforts, so to increase the water supply at the community scale, so that people had increased access to water. We've also been working on water management and starting to work with businesses within Palestine on new solutions to energy access. Are there opportunities to bring in distributed energy services, mostly solar energy into Palestine to provide more reliable energy services. So there's a lot of infrastructure focus there. We've also been investing for many, many years now on entrepreneurship and the startup culture.
Right. Okay. That's really interesting.
Yeah, in many places, there's where we often say that crisis can create opportunity, and there's an incredible array of talent in Palestine and people that have interesting, business ideas that can be built online and enable them to reach markets beyond Palestine. So we've had an accelerator hub. It's been called Gaza Sky Geeks. It's been there for a number of years now and has been growing and evolving in lots of different ways. And it acts as a technology hub, as an accelerator for local, sort of mostly young entrepreneurs to come gain skills, build their businesses, gain access to technology, test ideas, and then in many cases really scale them across the region. It's been a very inspiring effort and something that we just hope to continue to see grow and expand because it's been so impactful.
That's a really important point too, I think, is access to the internet, which I think it was the UN declared that to now be a human right. The way the world has gone now, it's so hard to communicate or even function properly without the internet. And in terms of sustainable development, how important is it to ensure that communities, especially remote communities and communities affected by crisis, can get online?
Oh, it's fundamentally important, and you're right. We're increasingly seeing it as part of the basic needs package that we want to see developing in and improving in any place that we work. Put it alongside energy and water and shelter and connectivity is getting to be at that level. It's so much. It's not. There's certainly opportunity around entrepreneurship and business and being connected to different kinds of markets. That's a huge part of it. But also things like basic information services. When we think about climate change, we think about early warning systems and different kinds of data services that help people adapt to climate change. All of that requires connectivity. So it's fundamental to so much of what Mercy Corps aims to achieve.
Now, with our website ESG MENA, we also look after, as the name suggests, North Africa as well as Middle East sustainability stories. Is there any work that you'd like to talk about that you're doing in North Africa?
We don't have a lot of programs in North Africa at the moment. In recent years, we have worked in Tunisia, supporting youth entrepreneurs and really trying to focus on the inclusion element of making sure that there's lots of opportunity for women and girls to engage in entrepreneurship opportunities and other community development efforts. But at this moment in time, we don't have any active programs.
Right. Okay. And as you said earlier, you're talking to us today from Sharm el Sheikh at COP27. What role is Mercy Corps playing with its involvement with COP27 this year?
So COP27 is really significant for Mercy Corps this year. With our mission as we think about the climate crisis, we're really aiming to add our voice to push the negotiators into both greater commitments for funding adaptation. More money is needed for adaptation, particularly in fragile states or those are really at the front lines of climate change. And certainly many countries in the Middle East fit into that category. We've been a little disappointed on money that has been going to climate finance that has been committed so far has been still skews quite heavily towards mitigation, emissions reductions. That's really important. We need all that money. But the reality is we've already locked in a certain amount of climate change and communities need resources to help adapt their livelihoods, create early warning systems, create the preparedness systems they need to cope and adapt with this crisis that is continuing to worsen. The other big policy issue that we're watching and really advocating for is the concept of loss and damage. This has been a big issue here at COP27 and will continue to be beyond these meetings. What is the arrangement, the financial arrangement, primarily financial arrangement moving forward for countries who have gone beyond the limits of adaptation, who are hit with these really large scale extreme weather events, or the sort of the creeping impacts of the climate crisis that mean, certain areas of land are no longer inhabitable, livelihood areas or ecosystems disappear, or we have the very large weather events like we've seen the flooding in Pakistan this year that just requires huge amounts of rebuilding efforts. The traditional humanitarian aid is just not designed well to do. So we're hoping to see an agreement reached on how to fund that loss and damage going forward. And it's still to be determined. That's very much on the table. Outside of those policy issues, we're also here to connect with other organizations and donors who are looking for the solutions that can scale. So we're here to talk about some of the work that we're doing in different parts of the world and finding partners and donors who can help scale that work.
Okay, so it's a great opportunity for some networking as well as some advocacy work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And beyond COP27, when everyone's gone home, obviously the work that's being done this week doesn't end in Egypt. It goes beyond. So what are the plans beyond COP27?
So from the policy side, the discussions on loss and damage are going to continue beyond here. We're at a minimum, the outcome of this COP, we expect there to be a really clearly defined process for the design of both how a funding mechanism should work and where the money will come from. Now, people get a little frustrated about this because it's incredibly process heavy. All these things have to be, and many of Mercy Corps has delegates here from many countries that are deep in these negotiations in Indonesia, and from Jordan, from Uganda, from Zimbabwe. And they're all hoping to see progress more rapidly, but they're all still feeling quite positive that we're going to be able to get to somewhere concrete. And then these discussions will continue. We're hoping within a year that will be cemented, and we'll start to see those funding arrangements being confirmed and money starting to flow. So there'll be lots and lots of policy work continuing, lots of working groups coming out of this. The same on the adaptation front. Agriculture and food systems have been a really big topic at this COP, recognizing that we're seeing climate change impacts on food systems, and work like the work we've been doing in Jordan and what we've learned from that feeds into this. So there's going to be a concerted effort coming out of this COP to figure out where what kinds of programs the funding should flow to. And it's on us to show the evidence. Our programs, we need to be able to bring the evidence to the table to say, this is working. These kinds of projects can be successful. And then we need to mobilize the partners and the private sector around, how do you bring private sectors to the table, not just as philanthropists, although we need the philanthropy money, but also where are the solutions that can be scaled through private investment.
So it's a matter of presenting, I guess, a business case to the private sector to show that, as well as it being, I guess, the morally right thing to do and the right thing for the planet, it's also an opportunity for them too.
That's exactly right, and there are business opportunities within. We are redesigning economies here. We're redesigning food systems. There are, of course, business opportunities. At the same time, it cannot replace the public money and the philanthropy that's needed.
Yeah.
We can't expect the private sector to solve these problems alone. And there are times when these conversations seem to think that that's going to be the solution to everything. And we need to make sure we're blending all the different kinds of different sorts of financing together. And that's Mercy Corps and many of our peer organizations. Our job is to demonstrate where the value is in the different countries that we work in, and what which solutions are those that we should scale.
Okay, fantastic. And just to finish up, what are you looking forward to achieving in the Middle East in the next few years?
So a couple of things I'm really excited about. One of which is increasing the scale of the water management work in Jordan. I think we've learned a ton. We've had a lot of success already, and there's opportunities to scale that across communities throughout the country and across the agriculture system. I know we have a growing evidence base that this investment in efficient water management can be really successful, and it's just such a fundamental need that we're really excited to continue to grow that. We're also looking now to increase investments and the development of other climate adaptation ideas across the region. The Middle East as a region has been a little slower than other regions to adopt climate change adaptation plans at scale. We're starting to see that change now. Governments are investing more in their own climate plans, and we're starting to see donors and local civil society really step up with interesting ideas, be that in Iraq or in Yemen even, where there's some really interesting ideas developing. So we're really looking forward to supporting our teams, our local civil society in those countries to hone those ideas, experiment with them quickly, bring the donor money to the table so we can test ideas quickly and then get them to scale.
Okay, great. Thank you for your time. That's all I've got time for this week's podcast. And thank you to everyone who's tuned in, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.